Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into your mission to track down a highly credible, research-based case study for your literacy intervention project. Think of yourself as an investigative detective right now, and the case you're trying to crack is finding the perfect, rock-solid evidence to build your instructional plan on. Let's be real for a second and set the stakes here. We all know the internet is absolutely swamped with bad info. If you just type struggling reader into a search engine, you're going to get buried in personal blogs, unverified advice, and totally incomplete data. So how exactly do you find the perfect, credible student profile to base your entire assignment on? Well, that's exactly what we're going to solve right now. To make sure you get the green light from your instructor, we've got a quick 6-part roadmap for today. Your case study mission, hitting up the primary source at the FAU library, essential supporting resources, criteria for a perfect case, red flags to avoid, and finally, steps and approval. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, your case study mission. Your goal here is crystal clear. You need to hunt down a research-based profile with clearly defined literacy needs to act as the bedrock for your intervention plan. We're not just looking for some generic article about reading. You need a specific student profile. Without a real, documented subject with actual needs, any plan you come up with is basically just guesswork. We want evidence-based precision here. Moving right along to Section 2, your primary source, the FAU library. Listen, you absolutely must start your search at library.fau.edu. I really can't stress this enough. It is your required source for a reason. Going straight to the university library system is the only way to make sure you're accessing peer-reviewed case studies and validated evidence-based intervention examples. This is exactly where the highest quality profiles live. To slice through the noise quickly, you've got to use the right tools. Try plugging in highly specific search terms like literacy intervention case study, struggling reader intervention study, or ELL reading intervention case study. Phrases that tell the database exactly what kind of academic profile you're hunting for. Jot these down if you need to, because using them will literally save you hours of scrolling through irrelevant articles. And you can narrow it down even further. The library is massive, so you'll want to focus your search exclusively inside ERIC, Education Source, or PsycInfo. Why those three? Because they are the absolute gold standard for educational and psychological research. Sticking to these practically guarantees you're going to find rigorous articles with the detailed student profiles you actually need for your project. That brings us to Section 3, essential supporting resources. Every good investigator needs backup evidence. The What Works Clearinghouse is your go-to for evidence-based strategies and understanding how interventions actually work in practice. The Iowa Reading Research Center is perfect for analyzing literacy development and specific challenges. Got a student dealing with decoding issues? The International Dyslexia Association is unmatched for structured literacy plans. And Reading Rockets? It's amazing for taking all that dense research and translating it into accessible, real-world classroom scenarios. You'll use all of these to back up your instructional decisions. All right, Section 4, criteria for a perfect case. These are your absolute non-negotiables, the green flags that prove you found the right subject. Your case study must have a clear student profile, meaning their age, grade, and background. It has to explicitly identify their literacy challenges, whether that's fluency, comprehension, or writing. And most importantly, it needs real assessment data or described performance. If those metrics are missing, you simply won't have enough detail to build a proper intervention plan. You just can't build a solid house on a shaky foundation. Which naturally leads us to Section 5, red flags to avoid. We've got to talk about the dead ends that will sink your project. You know you need verified, data-backed profiles, but you must deliberately avoid AI-generated case studies, random teacher blogs, or unverified opinion pieces. If a website doesn't have clear authorship or specific student data, just close the tab immediately. Your instructor's looking for peer-reviewed credibility. An AI-generated profile might sound perfectly written, but it has zero empirical weight, and relying on it will seriously compromise your assignment. Now here's an incredibly helpful insider pro tip. Sometimes that unicorn source, the one magical document with every single thing you need, just doesn't exist out there, and that is totally okay. If you can't find a perfect case study in one place, you're actually allowed to pull from multiple credible sources to construct one cohesive research-based student profile. Just piece together the background data from one solid article and the assessment structures from another. And finally, Section 6, final steps and approval. Here's how this all plays out chronologically. First, hit the FAU library for your primary case study. Second, grab your supporting evidence from those 4 secondary databases we just talked about. But step 3 is absolutely critical. You must submit your selected case study for mandatory instructor approval. Do not start writing your intervention plan until you get that green light. It ensures you haven't accidentally gone down a dead end before pouring hours of work into the project. So now that you've got the roadmap to separate the definitive, peer-reviewed research from the red flags, the ball is entirely in your court. Are you ready to dive into the databases, track down an incredible, data-rich student profile, and start building a case that will pass your instructor's review with flying colors? Get out there, crack the case, and I'll see you in the next explainer.